Hello, everyone. My name is Miriam McLemore, and I'm an enterprise strategist with AWS. Prior to joining AWS, I was the corporate CIO at the Coca-Cola Company. I am thrilled to be your host for our new Executive Spotlight program, where we will have the opportunity to have a deep dive conversation with AWS leaders about business challenges our customers are facing. We will also be able to address questions that leaders like you have submitted. And today I have the wonderful opportunity to have Swami, who is the Vice President of Amazon's Machine Learning, with us today. Swami, could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit of your background?
Sure. First of all, really excited to be here talking to you, Miriam. Just in the way of intro, so my name is Swami Subramanian. I'm the Vice President in charge of machine learning in AWS and Amazon. So my organization works on all areas around machine learning with the goal to make machine learning accessible in the hands of everyday developer and data scientist. And as a personal note, I've been with AWS and Amazon for 15 years since the early days of AWS. So really excited to be here.
Leadership is such a challenge just normally and in the speed of change that is facing all industries, but in these times, even more so. Are there key themes that you're hearing from customers that you're speaking to that have emerged in the last 6 to 8 months?
Yeah, actually, one of the biggest things I would probably tell is that given the unprecedented times we are living through, now more than ever, the advancements in technology matter more. There is an increasing number of organizations who are forced to actually move to digital transformation much quicker. So gone are the days where CIOs and CEOs used to think digital transformation is a long-term path, and I can actually take a multi-year strategy. When this pandemic started and a lot of actually work from home started and various folks needed access to information, suddenly digital transformation stopped being a multi-year project. It needed to happen right now. And that is one of the scenarios why we started seeing so many people started moving to cloud faster and adopting AI and ML technologies also much faster. And I would generally put these things in 4 buckets if you were to think about it. Number one is many organizations, right after we all started working from home and actually governments were forced to interact with customers digitally and so forth, the number one challenge they hit is scaling customer communications. And then the second one I would probably think about as the second bucket is around increasing agility in the organization. Suddenly, the rate of change around the environment, irrespective whether you're suddenly have to change your supply chain with the change in supply and demand, or you have to think about how to alter your change in your customer patterns, or you have to process a new kind of workload where you can't wait for 3 weeks approval in processing a loan and it needs to happen over the weekend and so forth. So you needed to change and increase your agility immensely. And then, of course, this time, we also needed to, every organization wanted to figure out how to get employees to work safely. And what does it mean, especially for folks who had to have a physical presence in the front line. And finally, also enable healthcare researchers and pharma companies on doing things like how to accelerate treatment, how to do drug discovery faster, how to exchange information faster. So I generally see these major 4 buckets where organizations are moving very, very fast.
And so let's dive into those a little bit, Swami. You talked about first scaling customer communications. Can you give us some examples of things that you've seen from customers you work with?
Sure. As we all actually started working from home, and then also as the pandemic started, one of the number one things suddenly started happening is people were very eager to get more information from their public sector organizations. It can be like the local government from the city or from the state or from the country as well. And so there they needed increasingly quick and reliable way for them to get the latest on saying like where is the closest testing center, or what is when are the testing centers hours are open and so forth. So this is where when you look at it, one example that comes to mind is GovChat. It's South Africa's largest citizen engagement platform that is connecting over 50 million citizens to more than 10,000 public representatives in the government. So this connection between the citizens and the government is such a critical thing. And one of the challenges is how do you scale this kind of massive number of citizens communication to this small number of representatives and get them access to the current information. So this is where GovChat actually leveraged one of our artificial intelligence service called Amazon Lex, which enables developers to build a conversational chatbot interface quickly, and they can deploy it live on the web or inside their contact center. So GovChat leverage Amazon Lex to build a chatbot that can help citizens find things like what is the closest COVID-19 testing facility. And also it kind of enables citizens to stay more informed as well. So this chatbot at its peak were able to exchange something like 14.2 million messages with no latency or backlog. So think about the scale of what is the communication that a government organization was able to achieve, again, using artificial intelligence primitives like Amazon Lex. Now, moving from there, again, it's not just about the government sector, but also even in the private sector. If you see organizations of all kinds and all sizes, it's really important for them to be able to scale their communications, especially as more people were actually starting to engage digitally.
So Swami, those were great customer examples. Can you talk a little bit about the importance also of increasing agility and efficiency in these challenging times?
The first one that comes to mind is a highly innovative company called Cabbage. So they are an online fintech company that are in the process of actually providing cash flow solutions for small businesses. And Cabbage has been using machine learning to quickly deliver things like financial relief packages for small businesses. And they have been leveraging our AI technology called Amazon Textract, which automatically takes care of things like taking a PDF form as an input and being able to automatically extract what is in the form and actually tell here is the first name, last name, and here is their SSN ID, and here are the relevant fields without having to go through and build custom OCR technologies and a lot of human processing. And one of the most challenging workloads that they had was around the Paycheck Protection Program, where when the pandemic hit, Cabbage was tapped in, where they enabled more than 500,000 small businesses employees to access Paycheck Protection Program funding in the US, where even their banks couldn't accommodate them. So that is the incredible part. So by using Amazon Textract, Cabbage took a week-long process of taking these forms, and instead of having to do them manually, now they shortened it to under 24 hours, making a dramatic impact on the speed of how quickly they were able to process these loans. So that's an example of how in a really agile startup we're able to actually use machine learning technology to augment human capabilities to serve customers faster. And moving from like fintech to agricultural technology. So one of the interesting things that we are starting to see in this world is that the supply chain is changing with change in supply patterns and change in demand patterns. So, and especially in these times, we all especially need to avoid any disruption in supply chain, especially for essential items such as food.
I love your examples and what we can do with data today. Another area that you mentioned was getting people back to work safely. Certainly, all companies are trying to figure out, what does that look like? What are their mechanisms for keeping their team safe? And are there technologies, that could help them? Are there some that you can share that have worked well for customers?
Sure. I'll just highlight a couple of them because we have seen like various interesting technologies built using many of our AWS technologies, right from our customers and our ISV partners and so forth. Let me just highlight a couple. First one is internally within Amazon fulfillment centers and other areas. We built something called Amazon's Distant Assist. So it is a computer vision based technology where using cameras, they were able to kind of project an image which kind of measures if social distancing is appropriately followed in any given field of vision. So we have these in displays in location, which serves as a visual reminder for all of us to say, hey, am I actually maintaining enough distance from my next colleague, and make sure that we all actually can have a safe work environment if we were had to assemble in the same place and whatnot. And another example that is outside Amazon is from Queensland, Australia. So there is an ISV partner of AWS called BigMate. They are a computer vision analytics company who built a thermal image scanning based on machine learning. This application is called Thermi, which tackles these issues using thermal imaging that can be deployed in any location. So, and you can deploy these thermal image cameras with these computer vision analytics. And it can scan 30 people a second at any given time and run like 8.3 scans per second. And the backend is essentially a computer vision model running on Amazon SageMaker. And these images are being sent to these models hosted in the cloud, and they are able to generate these analytics quickly in a timely fashion. So again, if you look at the common theme here, these are like great examples of innovation where distance assist, which we actually even made it open source and available in GitHub, or actually BigMate, which have made these technologies available for others to leverage as well. These are great examples of being able to use machine learning to help people get to work safely.
Yeah, it's interesting the level of innovation that a crisis can drive. So, Swami, we talked about kind of the areas that you're seeing lots of innovation for our customers. Are there things that they're doing differently, approaches that they're taking to machine learning and AI that you didn't expect?
Yeah, actually, so one of the biggest, I would probably see it as some of the changes in the approach to machine learning and AI, especially during these times. The number one is that we are seeing a lot more focus on pragmatism over open experimentation and just playing around with technologies. What I mean by that is that it doesn't mean that these companies are not implementing machine learning, but rather that they are getting very specific about what problem that they are trying to solve for their customers. And they are really now starting to work backwards from the customer experience and scenarios and picking the right business case. In fact, in various other talks, I have always talked about finding the right use case for machine learning is always the most important, especially in kickstarting a culture for machine learning in an organization. But it's even more important now. So we have seen many of our customers use this moment as an opportunity to accelerate machine learning projects that will be very impactful for machine learning safety or digital transformation, or improving the efficiency all the way from processing text-based documents and improving their workflows and so forth. And they are deprioritizing some of the more experimental projects and whatnot. Then the other one I would probably see is that they are now actually getting really good at implementing these projects also in parts and phases. So they are not trying to actually do like a 2 or 3 year project. Instead, many of them are actually focusing on what can I get done in the next few weeks and next few months before you start expanding to many different. So this is where the CIOs don't talk about now multi-year investment technologies and roadmaps. Instead, they are really now getting a lot more agile.
I think that's great to hear that customers are taking a more pragmatic and iterative approach. Certainly in the conversations I have with customers, that is something that we talk a lot about, is just get started. Find a real problem that adds value to your business and drive that home, and then do another, right? Till you build the muscle and you learn as an organization how to leverage these technologies to your best advantage. So I think, again, the crisis maybe has provided some level of focus for organizations. Are there things that our customers have that are misconceptions about machine learning?
It's a great question, actually. So I would probably put them in like a couple of buckets. And the number one I would probably do is I see many organizations and really well-intentioned CIOs and CEOs. They typically they are so excited about machine learning and they want to actually move forward. And then they end up hiring really good data scientists and put them in a central team and say, let's go actually build out a few projects. In theory, this could work well, but the problem is they end up getting in a centralized team so disconnected from the business units and the customers that what they end up doing is building a few proof of concepts or demos, but they never get integrated into the mainstream business. So this is where I highly encourage all executives to almost hire these data scientists and embed them into the business unit so that they are closer to the customers. They understand what problems need to be solved, what are the challenges faced by the engineers, and how to move quickly. This also gets a shared buy-in within the business units where they actually see these ML projects as part of their customer experience and their business altogether as well. And then the second one is machine learning does not happen without data. Data is the fuel for machine learning. And to get started on machine learning projects, the number one thing you need to do is get your data strategy straight. And this is where I encourage almost every CIO to kind of first get your data strategy in terms of setting up data lakes, setting up your access and control and governance, and data preparation, ETL, annotation, all these things set up well. And in fact, even when I talk to various ML scientists in Amazon or among our customers, I often hear that more than 50 to 70% of the time they spend on ML projects is spent on various kinds of data processing. So in fact, when we tend to hire these machine learning scientists to build these amazing algorithms, what they end up doing is spending a lot of time actually doing these data pre-processing and data wrangling and annotation work. So this is where I think focusing on these data strategy as well is such an important thing to get it right.
As you've built out this capability at Amazon and AWS, certainly you've had to experience failure to innovate at the speed that you have. Any kind of personal reflections on learning your way through this and building out these capabilities?
Sure. I mean, internally, we always joke around saying like, if you don't fail once in a while, let alone fail often, you're not innovating fast enough or innovating and pushing the boundaries hard. So I think to a large extent, failure goes hand in hand with innovation. So, and this is something where we as leaders, it can be in a startup or it can be in a big organization. You want to actually, if you're trying to drive innovation as a core principle and a culture within your organization, I think you want to actually encourage your engineers and leaders to embrace failures along the way and provide them a safe environment for them to fail. So, because we all actually take risks when we actually take these big projects, which have a lot of risk associated with them. But if they end up actually feeling like, hey, my career is on the line if I end up failing in this project, then you won't actually set up a culture of risk taking. So, with that, then I would also say, to some extent, failure is also a function of whether you stop trying after you hit a brick wall. Because there is a culture where you want to be constantly learning and reflecting on what you are finding out as you explore. And that's what innovation is all about. So, and that is same as true even in machine learning, where you're constantly experimenting with data and algorithms and seeing what works, and then constantly iterating based on what you see. And that is how you actually build a culture in machine learning and experimentation, which is actually true even in innovation, where you see often that startups, and even in Amazon, we actually almost every service team within AWS operates like a startup, its own startup. If we constantly work directly with customers and see what works and what needs to be, what is not working, so that we kind of actually constantly iterate on our approach based on customer feedback and pivot. And this actually encourages us to constantly be innovating, pushing the boundary. And if we kind of hit any kind of wall, then we know what to do to pivot and actually continue the innovation cycle as well.
Absolutely. And, Swami, you've now been with Amazon for, I think you said 15 years. And so at the beginning, some people would think, well, it was a startup and you could fail, but fail small. As the technology has changed and the spotlight's gotten brighter and, failing, and I see this in large enterprises, it feels like, you're going to fail big when you get into these big companies. Have you been able to keep your edge and, as you said, keep it day one and still allow your team to fail small?
It's a great question. And this is something we constantly think about as well. So, just to give even my own experience, I think one thing that is kind of unique about Amazon, even 15 years ago, I joined Amazon as an intern. So, and one of the first things I remember in one of the meetings early on was we were reviewing some database related issue that kind of caused disruption to Amazon.com retail customers. And I remember asking my manager, who's Werner Vogels, who's CTO of Amazon, saying like, why are we relying on this old relational database technology? Why can't we build something to the scale that Amazon.com needs that provides better durability and accuracy and scalability that we need? And here is how we can do it. And normally, most companies would actually say, you know what, you're an intern, you should go do what the task we assigned to do. But Amazon is a little bit different. So we actually encourage builders to build and we innovate. So Werner said, it's a great idea. If you have precise, concrete thoughts, write it down and go collaborate with this team, which is thinking about this problem. And that's how Dynamo was born. So, and that's how now we made Dynamo as an externally available database in the cloud called DynamoDB, which is now powering majority of Amazon.com, let alone actually huge number, thousands or tens of thousands of companies around the world as well. So, And that is like one example of also how Amazon actually is, again, staying day one, where if you unpack what happened here, we actually are very, very customer obsessed and seeing how can we continue to improve customer experience. And we don't actually set up a culture of being top down. We encourage builders. We want builders to build, and we encourage every builder to come up with innovative ideas. And even senior leaders, they are trained to say yes more than no. And it's an important thing because ideas always don't come from the top. In fact, innovation always is coming from people who are closer to the customer. And that is really the second element. If you ask me, one of the unique things I think about, special about Amazon, is our leadership principles, which are 14 of them. As you can go check them out online. But my favorite leadership principle is our customer obsession. So if you see any meeting in Amazon when we talk about our product strategy, our technical strategy, and also how to evaluate competitive situation in the market or so forth, we don't worry about competition or actually figuring out all the other things. The number one thing we always think about is customers, and we obsess over what is their experience, how can we delight them, and we work hard every single day to make sure that we are doing everything and building the right technology for the customer. And this is one of the reasons now, even internally within Amazon, we actually have like these single-threaded teams. For instance, the SageMaker team operates like its own startup, focused on actually helping ML builders build, train, and deploy ML models in the cloud and at the edge. And that's all they are focused on. And they are actively working with the relevant customers. So the decision making, everything is actually highly close to where the customers are, and the GMs act like their own CEOs. And this kind of culture helps Amazon constantly actually make decisions faster and stay focused on the customers as well. So, and the other aspects of around enabling builders to build and actually come up with brilliant ideas is the other, I would call it a secret sauce as well. So.
Swami, what a great thought to end our conversation on: customer obsession and putting the customer first. Thank you so much for your time and your insights. It was terrific to have a few moments with you.
No, my pleasure. Again, really enjoyed our conversation, Miriam, and very, very excited as well to talk to you.